The fire alarm was blaring. The stairwell was empty. And from the unlit 12th floor, I heard people chanting. It was my first month at the job, and I honestly thought I was losing it. I should back up. I had just started at this big corporate place downtown. Glass tower, badge access, that whole thing. It was my first real job out of school. Marketing analyst on the 10th floor. The company had this policy of monthly fire drills, always after hours. So we do not disrupt client calls. In reality, it just meant anyone who worked late got interrupted by a screeching alarm and had to shuffle down 15 flights of stairs. Everyone else joked about it. Mandatory cardio, my manager called it. The building manager sent the same email every time. Routine alarm test at 6:30 p.m. Please follow evacuation procedure. Nothing weird, just another corporate box to tick. That night, I stayed late to finish a report. 10th floor was basically empty by 6. Open plan desks, dark conference rooms, just the hum of the vending machine and my own typing. When the alarm went off, I actually jumped. The siren was insanely loud up close, making the light panels vibrate. I grabbed my bag, annoyed, and headed for the stairwell. I knew the drill. Take the stairs down. Do not use the elevators. Meet at the assembly point across the street. I pushed open the heavy fire door and started down, the sound of the alarm becoming this weird echoing pulse in the concrete stairwell. Around the 11th floor landing, the sound changed. Under the siren, I heard something else. A low, rhythmic murmur. Not words I could make out. Just this steady pattern, like a dozen people whispering together. It was coming from above, somewhere around the 12th floor. I stopped on the landing and held onto the rail, listening. The alarm was so loud it felt stupid to think I was hearing anything through it. But I swear I did. A low collective sound, rising and falling, almost like prayer or chanting. That was the word my brain kept going to. I told myself it was ventilation, or some weird echo of the alarm. I even laughed a little to myself, because the alternative, that there were people upstairs, in the dark, chanting during a fire drill, felt like something out of a movie. I hurried down the rest of the way, pretending my footsteps were the only sounds I heard. Outside, we all huddled at the designated assembly point. It was winter, already dark, everyone's breath visible in the cold air. People scrolled on their phones, complained about lost time, joked about dying of boredom. That was when I saw them. Across the crowd, maybe 20 feet away, was a small group standing slightly apart from everyone else. 6, maybe 7 people. They were all wearing dark clothes, black or very dark gray. Nothing outrageous, but off, like old-fashioned office wear, longer skirts, narrow ties, jackets that looked a little too structured. Like something from a catalog photo from 20 years ago. They were not talking to anyone else. They were turned slightly in toward each other, heads bowed just a little, lips moving in these tiny, constant whispers. No phones, no joking. None of them looked back at the building like the rest of us. Their eyes seemed fixed nowhere. And then, when I glanced over again, all of them were suddenly looking at me. Not turning to look, just already looking, like I had snapped into their line of sight. It was quick, maybe a second, but it unnerved me. Their faces were expressionless. Not angry, not friendly, just blank. It reminded me of mannequins. New kid, right? My coworker Jenna bumped my arm, making me jump. You good? Yeah. Just tired, I lied, dragging my gaze away. When I glanced back, the group had turned inward again, whispering. Who are they? I asked. Who? She followed my line of sight. The space where they had been standing was empty. People had moved. But there was not any sign of 7 coordinated dark outfits. You okay? Yeah, I said again. Must have been looking at the wrong spot. I told myself they had just blended into the crowd, and I had lost track of them. That was all. A few weeks later, it happened again. No alarm this time. Just another late night on the 10th floor, trying to catch up on a campaign analysis. It was around 8. The hum of the building changes after 6 when most people leave. The air feels heavier. Sounds carry more. I went to the restroom down the hall. The corridor was empty, lights dimmed to power-saving mode. As I was washing my hands, I heard it, that low, rhythmic murmur. This time there was no alarm to hide it. It was clearer. Multiple voices, speaking at the same time. Too soft to make out words, but unmistakably human. My first thought was that someone had left a radio on in one of the nearby conference rooms. I stepped out into the hallway, holding my breath. The office was dark except for the emergency exit signs. The sound was not coming from our floor. It was coming from the stairwell. The fire door at the end of the hall was slightly ajar. I froze. That door is supposed to stay closed unless someone is going through it. That is like the one thing they drilled into us during orientation. Sprinkler pressure, smoke containment, all that, but it was open a few inches. Just enough for a sliver of the stairwell's emergency lighting to cut into the carpet. The chanting, or whatever it was clearer now, seeping through that gap. My heart was pounding, but curiosity pushed me forward. I walked down the hall as quietly as I could. When I got to the door, I reached out and nudged it open just a crack more. In the dim, yellowish light of the stairwell, I saw someone standing on the landing. They were maybe a foot away from the other side of the door, back to me, facing the door to my floor like they were waiting for it to open. Dark clothes, rigid posture. I recognized the style right away. It was one of the people from that group outside during the last drill. They were not moving, not even a little, just standing there. The chanting sound did not seem to be coming from them. It was like it was coming from everywhere in the stairwell at once. But they were silent. I did not even breathe. Every instinct in me screamed that if they turned around and saw me, something would be very, very wrong. I eased the door shut as slowly as I could, careful not to let the latch click. Then I walked back to my desk like nothing had happened, grabbed my bag with shaking hands, and took the elevator down to the lobby, ignoring everything they had told us about always using the stairs. I told myself it was a building inspector, or security, or some bizarre fire drill prep. I sent an anonymous email to facilities about the stairwell door being left open. They replied with a generic, "Thanks for letting us know. Safety is our priority." That was it. I tried to forget about it. The next month's fire drill email landed in my inbox with its usual bland subject line. This time, instead of rolling my eyes, my stomach dropped. I should have gone home at 5 that day. I almost did, but some stubborn part of me wanted answers. Were those people from some weird department? Was this some secret religious group using the building after hours? Had I just let my imagination go wild? So when the alarm went off at 6:30, I stood up, grabbed my badge, and went the wrong way. Instead of heading down, I pushed into the stairwell and started going up. Each flight felt heavier than the last. The alarm pounded against the concrete, and under it, I could hear it again, the voices, low, rhythmic, layered under the siren like a second pulse. By the time I reached the 12th floor landing, my hands were sweaty on the rail. The door to the 12th floor office was not just ajar this time. It was wide open. The floor beyond was dark. No overhead lights, just the green glow of exit signs and the faint wash of the city through the windows. The chanting was loud now, clear enough that I could hear the rise and fall, even if the words still did not make sense. I stepped to the edge of the doorway and peeked in. They were there, more of them than I had seen outside. Maybe a dozen figures in dark clothing, arranged in a semicircle around a single desk. On the desk was a monitor. It was off, totally black. They stood with their backs mostly to me, all facing that blank screen. Bodies swaying slightly in unison. Their mouths moved, voices threading together in that unsettling, hypnotic pattern. None of them had coats or bags. They looked like they had just stood up from their desks and formed this circle. As I watched, the chanting shifted. Slower. Quieter, the swaying stopped. One of them, taller than the rest, tilted their head as if listening to something I could not hear. Then, very slowly, they turned. Their face came into view in the glow from the exit sign. Pale, flat, like all the other faces I had seen that night. But their eyes looked wrong. I do not know how else to say it. Not glowing or anything dramatic, just empty, like there was no light catching in them at all, like looking at the dull side of a stone. And they were looking right at me. Every hair on my body stood up. I did not think. I just ran. I spun back into the stairwell and bolted down the stairs. 2, 3 steps at a time, hand sliding on the railing. The alarm screamed in my ears. Every landing felt like it took an hour. I could not make myself look back, because I knew, on some animal level, that if I saw someone following me, I might freeze. I burst out into the lobby, nearly slammed into the security guard, and stumbled outside with the rest of the evacuation crowd. People were chatting, laughing, scrolling their phones, completely unaware that anything was wrong. I scanned the crowd for the dark-clothed group. I did not see them. The next day, I drafted my resignation letter during my lunch break. I did not give a reason, just personal circumstances, and thank you for the opportunity. My manager tried to talk me out of it. I mumbled something about mental health and family stuff, and she backed off. A week later, I walked out of that building for the last time. I never reported what I saw. Who would I tell? Hi, I think some people are chanting around a dead computer screen on the 12th floor. Best case, they think it is a weird club and tell me to mind my own business. Worst case, they send me to HR for a wellness check. It has been years. I work remotely now, different city, different life. But every time I hear a fire alarm in a quiet building, at a mall, in a hotel, even on TV, that same cold dread washes over me. My body remembers the echo of those voices under the siren, the feeling of being watched. I still wonder what they were doing, why the monitor was off, what they were waiting to see. And the part that really keeps me up sometimes is not that moment when they looked at me. It is this sick little thought that creeps in at night. What if they had known I was there, watching them, long before that last drill?